Hi everyone, my name is Sherry Danishvili, and my research proposal is about social emotional check-ins and mental health literacy and how they can help secondary students progress academically and personally after COVID-19. So the significance of this study, um, as we all know, COVID-19 brought about a lot of unprecedented times for everyone involved, but especially children. So prior to the pandemic, mental health concerns were already rising for adolescents. But then after returning to in-person instruction and after students had a lot of uncertainty in their lives, mental health concerns really elevated. So the pandemic came about during their developmental years, which really affected their social skills, emotional skills such as coping, their developmental health, and then because of all that, it affected their academics. Before COVID, suicide was already a really big leading cause of death in this age range, but then that number increased post COVID. So the significance is to introduce new social emotional learning strategies that we can bring about to the classroom that really accommodate and kind of go along with this new world that we're living in and teaching in. And then this study will add on to the research that is already being conducted about COVID-19 and its impact on students. My three research questions. The first one is, what are the effects of social and emotional check-ins on students' mental health at a secondary level? The next are, what are the effects of encouraging and building mental health literacy among adolescents at a secondary level? And then the last one is, what is the correlation between mental health check-ins among adolescents and academic and personal progress? When we go into my literature review, I separated it into different subsections that I think answer those research questions. The first of which is understanding the prevalence of mental health in schools. So to begin, before COVID even came about, there was already a lot of anxiety, depression, and suicide rates among high school students, and they were already very high. That was done. That was found out during a study conducted in 2021 by Al-Azam. And then, like I mentioned previously, academics, physical, social, and emotional development were affected because of this. The World Health Organization in 2019, so this is before COVID even really came about, suicide was still found as the second leading cause of death in people aged 10 to 24. So that's a really big demographic, especially between the ages of 10 to 18, which is what we would be working with potentially. The World Health Organization also said that mental health issues are deemed as a genuine general health issue, especially because of how prevalent they are in schools, and the effect that they have on children. And because of this, that brings about a demand for more advanced youth mental health programs and early recognition and intervention. Programs were implemented by bringing in more culturally sensitive education to schools that we see now. The next section I would like to address is encouraging mental health literacy. Many studies have been done between, as you can see, Al-Azam, Curtin, Key, and Swartz. So many studies have been done. It shows that students just do not have enough background knowledge on mental health. They have a negative perception of it that was brought about since they were younger, and they don't know how or if they should reach out for help. A couple different programs to help encourage mental health literacy have been created, one of which was mentioned by Curtin. So there are peer education programs linking an older student with a younger one that has similar experiences can help them destigmatize it and help educate students. This was found to really help them feel more comfortable to reach out for help and talk to people about their mental health if needed. Next was a program that has a 1 hour workshop run by a mental health professional. Surveys were done before, immediately after, and then a while after the workshop to see how the stigmatic attitudes were towards mental health, as well as assessing their knowledge. And it was found that their stigmatic attitudes lowered by 23%, and students felt a lot more comfortable talking about their mental health. This is also a very cost-effective strategy. It can also just be done by a mental health professional within the school. Lastly, there was an adolescent depression awareness program that had almost 7,000 students in it, and a lot of different schools were involved. It was a program designed to advance their mental health literacy, and it showed great significance with students feeling more willing to reach out to help from their teachers and other staff at the school. Next is the effect of COVID-19 on students' mental health. Many of the studies done, because it is only 3 years since the pandemic began, many studies aren't that long, so a lot of them are from the beginning of the pandemic, but some studies done, one was within the first 6 months of the pandemic. Students within the high school age range reported feeling low at least once a week, and 1/5 of them had reported that they'd self-harmed. This is all just within the first 6 months, so now we're in 3 years. Later on in 2020, there was another study done showing that there was an increase in anxiety and depressive symptoms for students and their families due to the disruption in their daily routines, such as school, their physical exercise, social interactions, nutrition, and the quality of sleep, which we know all affect mental health. Also, another thing that was noted was that these students were in elementary or middle school when the pandemic first began, which was a crucial developmental time period for them. So due to this disruption in extremely vital parts of their routines and their development, there needs to be some catching up and analysis of how we can help catch our students up and where they need extra assistance. Also, the closer that the students came to graduating high school, the worse their mental health became due to the uncertainty of the world around them and the lack of coping skills that they had growing up. The next category I'd like to discuss is the correlations between mental health check-ins and academic progress. So most people think that if students have too many expectations placed on them academically, their mental health will be worse. Studies actually found that to be the opposite. In 2018, a study was done that found that students who had higher expectations of themselves and higher academic achievements were less likely to have mental health struggles due to consistent check-ins and encouragement from their educators, and it gave them a goal to look forward to. On the other hand, students that don't have any plans or encouragement or do not feel challenged exhibited more mental health concerns. So that brought about a need to incorporate more check-ins into the school day. Student perspectives were a big part in this as well. It is their mental health that we're looking at overall. So different variables go into their mental health and their academic experience, such as motivation, their coping skills, number of friends, bullying, their safety in school, and teacher-student relationships. All of these affect their mental health. It was found that if teachers were able to create a safe, supportive, warm, and welcoming classroom environment where students feel seen, encouraged, it encourages positive mental health. Thus, less children will also be dropping out. An issue that was brought about was other mental health disabilities, or such as ADHD, or different races and how they feel in the classroom and how that affects their mental health. So if the teacher is able to foster a sense of belonging among students, regardless of any other disabilities or their race, that does not matter as long as all students feel safe and seen. It helps with positive self-image and thus helps with their academic performance as well. The last section I cover is additional educator training. There have been a lot of programs created for students in mental health, which is great. However, there's not a lot been made for teachers to either discuss their mental health or learn the skills to teach students and help students when they need that help mentally. So in that case, educators might not know the warning signs or certain coping skills or any additional knowledge on the subject. And it was also found that the transition from middle school to high school is seen as a traumatic experience for students because it's such a big change. During the ages of 11 to 15, we have a little gap area where we can really help with the onset of depressive symptoms before they manifest into a full depressive or anxiety disorder. So within that time, teachers need to be well educated on anxiety and depression and other mental health disorders, as well as more training on transition and intervention programs, so we can stop the mental health challenges in the tracks before they become something bigger. The type of study that I am doing is a descriptive study, which utilizes mixed methods such as group discussions, conferences, surveys, and journal entries. The subjects will be high school students, at least 100 of them, in a high school English classroom. They will have diverse backgrounds as they'll be attending from different cities in San Diego County. My data collection consists of a mental health survey and a journal entry, which is done as kind of an initial assessment of the knowledge students have about mental health, as well as kind of scoring the depression and anxiety and thoughts of COVID-19. And then after that, weekly check-ins, surveys, and discussions will occur. And grades will be analyzed in accordance to these scores and see if there's any correlation from the mental health scores that were reported throughout the week. My analysis of data, so there will be the anxiety survey, a depression survey, and a COVID-19 survey that I create myself. Scores will be logged in on a journal that students have themselves so they can track their own progress, find any patterns, and then I will check these journals at the end of the week as well. Their scores and their academic scores will then be analyzed each week through an Excel sheet to find any correlation between the two. Ethical considerations. This is a very sensitive topic. COVID-19 was not the easiest time for anyone, so students may not feel comfortable discussing their mental health due to trauma. And if that is the case, they can choose to pass on any discussions that we have that they don't feel comfortable with. Any emotional or academic feedback is kept in a password-protected computer. And during the study, students will go by a pseudonym for the study. Their parents also may choose to have their data not used in the study, but these discussions and journal entries and surveys will still be happening in my class so that I can better assist my students. My limitations include potentially a small sample size and a diverse range of students attending my school because they come from all different areas of San Diego County, so I might not have all the background knowledge that I need to analyze their mental health state and progression. I think through these check-ins, journal entries, and surveys, I can see if there is any correlation and develop any social emotional learning strategies that can better assist our students post-COVID and coming back to our new normal. Thank you so much.